effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles.
In a bold move that has sent shockwaves through global markets, President Donald Trump has announced the imposition of sweeping tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, a decision that has drawn sharp criticism from international allies and economic experts alike. The tariffs, set at 25% for steel and 10% for aluminum, are part of the administration's aggressive strategy to bolster domestic industries under the banner of national security. However, the immediate fallout suggests a complex web of economic repercussions both at home and abroad. Domestic economic impact. The introduction of these tariffs has led to significant volatility in the U.S. stock markets, with the S&P 500 experiencing a sharp decline of 5.7% in recent trading sessions. This downturn reflects investor anxiety over potential retaliatory measures from trading partners and the broader implications for industries reliant on these metals. In Michigan, a state heavily dependent on the auto industry, the effects are already palpable. Automakers and suppliers, facing increased costs due to the tariffs, are contemplating workforce reductions and potential relocation of production facilities. Stellantis, for instance, has initiated layoffs, while companies like Luxett and Lucerne are exploring options to move operations, potentially diminishing the state's manufacturing base. Industry analysts warn that vehicle prices could surge by $2,500 to $20,000, potentially dampening consumer demand and leading to further economic strain in regions like Detroit and Windsor. International response and retaliation. The European Union has been swift in its response. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen engaged with leaders from the automotive, steel, and pharmaceutical sectors to strategize countermeasures. The EU is considering a 15% reduction in steel imports and potential export duties on scrap materials. Additionally, discussions are underway to lower EU tariffs on U.S. car imports from 10% to 0.5%, signaling a preference for negotiated settlements over escalating trade tensions. Canada, the largest supplier of steel and aluminum to the U.S., has labeled the tariffs as unacceptable and is contemplating responsive measures to safeguard its economic interests. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau emphasized the negative impacts these tariffs could have on both economies, highlighting the deep integration of cross-border industries. Warnings from economic experts. Prominent figures in the financial sector have voiced concerns over the administration's tariff strategy. Billionaire investor Bill Ackman has warned of a looming, self-induced economic nuclear winter, urging President Trump to pause the tariffs for 90 days to renegotiate global trade terms. Ackman cautioned that the current trajectory could erode global confidence in the U.S. as a reliable trade partner, potentially leading to reduced business investments, decreased consumer spending, and heightened unemployment rates. Deutsche Bank analysts have echoed these sentiments, describing the tariffs as the most significant disruption to global trade since the 1970s. They predict that dismantling the existing trade framework could adversely affect corporate profits and destabilize the global economic order, with projections indicating GDP growth falling below 1% and unemployment nearing 5%. Global trade implications. The World Trade Organization (WTO) has weighed in, ruling that the U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs violate global trade rules. The WTO's decision challenges the U.S. justification of national security, stating that such measures are not applicable at a time of war or other emergency. This ruling may embolden other nations to pursue legal challenges and implement retaliatory tariffs, further complicating international trade relations. In conclusion, as the Trump administration doubles down on its protectionist policies, the immediate and long-term ramifications are becoming increasingly evident. Domestically, industries reliant on steel and aluminum are grappling with increased costs and operational uncertainties. Internationally, allies and trading partners are formulating countermeasures, raising the specter of a protracted trade war. Economic experts warn of potential recessions and destabilization of the global economic order. The coming months will be critical in determining whether these tariffs will achieve their intended objectives or lead to unintended economic consequences that could reverberate worldwide.
Starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that. We used to think about it a lot. We didn't think about it for many decades, and you see what's happened. For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating. And because we are being very kind, we're kind people, very kind. You're not so kind when you got ripped off with your salaries. My auto worker friends and my Teamster friends and all of the unions that typically voted Democrat, they're not voting Democrat anymore because worker, whether union or non-worker, they're for the Republicans now. That's what happened. But we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. If you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be because we never charge anybody anything, but now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You know, you think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually, they're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough, great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46%, and much higher for certain items like cars, you know, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left. He's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades. And it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China and charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe, but they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it. Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He was unfortunately taken from us, assassination. But I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. A trade is not fair. He said, I know that, I know that. And he was a great gentleman. He was a fantastic man, but he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that. And we worked out a deal, and it would have been a much better deal, but frankly, there were many years left on the deal that was made previous to my getting there, but it was something. If you look at Switzerland, 61% to 31%. Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh is 74%. So you see what's going on. Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full, we could take the full 88%. Thanks a lot, Howard. He's doing a very good job. How's he doing, all right? At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart? And that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating. So we're going to have a minimum of cheating, and we're going to be very severe on the people that at the gate that watch the tariffs and watch the product coming in, because there's been a lot of bad things happening at the gate because the money is so enormous that you're talking about. There's never been probably anything like it in terms of the enormity, and there are a lot of bad things happen at the people that do the check-in, and they're looking at 10-year jail sentences if they do play. We're going to treat them so good, but if they cheat, the repercussions are going to be extremely strong.